aka Geeks.
Hey everybody, welcome to AKA Geeks and our group discussion movie of the week. I'm Sean. With me, I have Brendan, who's on location at a bird sanctuary.
Yes.
And Lynn.
What's up, everybody? How you doing?
All right, so this week's movie of the week was The Big Short. This one is about, plot summary here. 4 denizens in the world of high finance predict the credit and housing bubble collapse of the mid-2000s and decide to take on the big banks for their greed and lack of foresight. Lynn, let's jump right into it, man. Give me some of your positives. What did you like about this film?
Dude, this movie was incredible.
Oh, wow.
I really...
Doors.
No,
Out the gate.
No, the reason why, because when you first mentioned it and I looked at it, I was like, oh my God, another dreadful, blasé, serious piece that I'll have no interest, that I'll have to spew out some marmalade garbage to try to make it work. But but within the first 3 or 4 minutes, I was hooked. And I just like, wow, I couldn't believe all the stuff that was going on. And just how it took you out of the film with those cameos explaining to you exactly what those bank statements were and what have you. Oh my God, this movie, hands out, unless you're a complete moron, you would have been sitting there going like, huh? That really happened?
Now, saying that, this movie is something you have to pay attention to. It's 2 hours.
It's a smart movie. It's a very smart movie.
Yeah, with very intelligent dialogue. It's stuff that's not. It's not in layman's terms for the most part. They give you a framing of what they're gonna use as layman's terms at the beginning. Remember, but other than that, I mean, like you said, you gotta pay attention to this.
And what's funny, if it was, and the reason why I think this hit more with me is because shortly after the bubble burst is when Susan and I were looking into buying a home. Wow. And this was after the bubble burst, so that's how we ended up buying our house, is because, this is a house that used to sell for in the 300s. Oh, wow. And we got it for nowhere near
half
those
of that
price
or less,
points.
Probably.
No, a lot less. Yeah, a lot less. So, and that's because of the bubble bursting.
So yeah.
But yeah.
Thank God the bubble burst.
Yeah, with my eyes.
So you go into this movie right after the first few minutes, it grabs your attention and pulls you in. What aspects about the beginning of the film? Because I really liked what you just said about how it tells you a story, it pulls you out, but subtly enough just to kind of push the reset button and say, hey, this is where we're at, and put you back in. What did you like that? Is that what worked for you?
Well, here's the thing. It was telling a true story, not as normally when they tell these biopic type pics, they usually do it straight word for word, whatever book was written or what have you. This movie, I gotta say, it had balls, because it started you off. It broke the fourth wall, first of all, which is something a biop never usually does. When the guy's talking to you, what is it, Jared Bennett, when he's talking to you at the beginning of the movie to explain what's going on, Jared Bennett. I'm not calling him by his actor name, but when he's telling you, hey, this is what the movie's going to be, this is the story that's going to happen, and then he starts bringing in the central characters that are key to it, including himself. That's awesome. And so and then mixing it where I thought it was going to be, like I said, super serious, super, not a very happy picture, because technically it isn't, but the fact that it also threw in those bits of comedy, even with those breaks in the movie, by letting the mundanes know what's going on in layman's terms, with those guest cameos, was brilliant, because that way it kept you moving along smoothly, and it never made you, if you're not familiar with banking statement or housing stuff, it didn't make you feel like a complete moron unless you really are that. So
they also used what they did well in this film was they were able to put on screen a way to visualize and understand what they're saying,
what was going on.
They're saying, because there were scenes where they went to neighborhoods to kind of And it's like the scenes where they were at the neighborhoods were kind of right at the end of a part where they're talking about what's happening, and then bam, you get to see it on screen for your very eyes. I mean, obviously it's a movie, but for your very eyes, you see what they're setting it up with, like a setting, and it's like not only they pull you out and help you understand things, and that's very smooth, but they also like visually showed you what's going on in the world.
Because all right, so. In layman's term, for everybody who doesn't know what we're talking about, I'm going to try to break it down for the best. In 2007 was when it was first. Well, that's when the bubble burst, but it started to burst. But it was about 2000. It took 2 years, so 2004, 2005 was when the doctor, Christian Bale's character, Michael Burry, Dr. Burry, when he starts saying this is going to happen. And this is what's going to come down. It was like two years before it actually starts to happen. So it was about 2004, 2005. And what he's talking about is the economic deal when it comes to the housing. And they were, he wanted it. His whole game plan is that I'm going to put up a statement, and I want the banks to know that I'm going to bet against the housing. Because at that time, housing was supposedly the most steady thing. But this guy was so brilliant that he saw that this was not going to stay as it is, and things are going to pop where, everything's going to drop down. And so he betted against those mortgages where he could get, 22 to 1?
I think it was like 20 to 1, something like that, yeah.
Odds. And so he ended up with a good chunk of change because the bank was basically, you're guaranteed your money if it happens, because the banks were believing it's never going to happen. Because that's what big banks do. They're thinking, well, no, that's the most steady thing. And then they talk about, I don't want to say pyramid, but there's levels in this that's where it starts to go into the detail things. But
what
in layman's term, he predicted all this as it was, and he formulated a plan where he could make some money for himself, as well as other people who had brought it up. Hence the other characters in the film that they mentioned. Like Mark Baum.
Yeah, Steve Carell.
I love Steve Carell's character.
Steve Carell
I think
is he's steadily becoming an amazing actor. I don't know if you've seen Foxcatcher.
I think he has always been that way, but I think people typecast him or
comedy.
Perceive him like us as moviegoers. We only see him as one side. We never really take to benefit that he's really, an established actor. And this is one movie that, even though, and the reason why I loved him is because of his anger, and he was still trying to do what was right for the little person, because he believed himself to be that little person. And it was because of said tragedy that he was doing all this.
He wanted to right the wrongs in the world. He's a very righteous man.
Exactly.
But Steve Carell, I mean,
Exactly.
there's been numerous movies that I've watched of his where he's getting better and better and better in every film, and he was nominated for this one for supporting actor. He did an amazing job. His character, I was just like, in the last two films that I've seen him in, Foxcatcher and in this one, you forget it's Steve Carell, except for the fact that when you look on IMDb and you see Steve Carell, he did such a good job with this one. The character of Baum, and like you said, with the movie has balls. They actually acknowledge when they're showing you something that's crazy that you might not think is true, that you might just think it's Hollywood. They'll acknowledge that in a really narrative way with Ryan Gosling's character, Venet. And they acknowledge something like when he asked the question in the middle of this guy's speech, or when the guys, the friends, found the books on the table. He goes, "We didn't really find
Charlie Geller, Jamie
we didn't really
Shipley.
find them on the table.
Charlie and
We're just,
Jamie.
doing this because this works." So I like this.
That's what I mean about breaking that fourth wall. It took guts for them to do that, because for you to for them, I mean, if this was another movie and that was going out there and the characters say, "Hey, to be honest, this isn't what happened. We're just doing this so you guys understand it better."
Yeah.
I don't think it would have worked anywhere else, but with this movie, it just fits and moved so smoothly. I couldn't believe it. I was like, wow.
You know what what I think helped make it a little bit easier for that stuff to flow? And I know this is dumb, but I honestly think the cursing in the film, like how many curse words there were, Like it was a naturally happening, a naturally occurring in their dialogue, the cursing. They weren't trying to hold anything back with how people speak, especially these angry guys like Bomb, Steve Carell. They're just angry, they're cursing or whatever, and so it's kind of like, okay, it is serious, but it's also kind of almost comical. But it's playing both sides very well, and it made it easier, I think, at least in my eyes, for them to be like, yeah, this effing happened, or this.
I think what also helped is because I looked at it as like, I loved that you saw the sides of the big banks thinking these guys are just complete and fucking utter morons to believe that the housing mortgages were going to go down, or that this imaginary bubble, as they called it, was going to burst, because there is no bubble. And they would laugh at these guys' faces, but at the same time, oh, but we'll still take your money. We'll laugh in your face and take your money. And then when they were like, shooting themselves in the foot and tried every which way not to pay these guys when the bubble did burst.
Well, see, even with that, Jared Burnett, Ryan Gosling's character, the way they portrayed him was like, he's a hotshot, asshole, dick, but at least his character realized, like, even if they do break, the bubbles burst, I'm still going to get money from this. So he was still accepting the fact, like, okay, yeah, I see what you're talking about, but I'm still going to take your money. But in the end, either way, I'm going to get more money. And they showed him with the check, with how many zeros he had on there. Like, so it's like
the one guy, Mark Baum's associate, that says, "I just want to know how you're gonna fuck us." When he tells Jerry Burnett that, he's like,
Vinny something.
Yeah. When he tells him, he's like, I don't want to hear anything else. Just tell me how this is gonna fuck us.
How you're gonna? Yeah, he says.
Yeah. Because he was like, I just want to know, because I know this can't be what it is. And he was like, listen, and that's where he says, either way, I'm gonna get money.
Yeah. I'm just
doing
this. Still get money.
Yeah, I'm just doing this to get a piece. So I'm not trying to fuck you. I'm trying to just get a little bit more money.
What he said, and again, like when these group discussions, we don't usually jump into a lot of spoiler stuff. I mean, we do. This one we're staying light on it. He says, one of the lines he says, worse to the effect is like, there's essentially is a sundae. I get the little toppings, and you get the main bulk of the sundae.
The cherry.
Yeah, you get the ice cream, the banana, and all that. I get the whipped cream and cherry, I think he said.
He was like, I may get the chocolate topping and the sprinkles and maybe the cherry on top.
You get the ice cream, the banana.
You get this sundae. You get the rest of the sundae.
And I there was something about that, the honesty, whether it happened or not. Most of it is, based on retellings of situations and stuff like that. And obviously Hollywood has to make a coherent story that flows. But it was pretty honest with a lot of these dialogue choices, with how these characters talk to each other and what they spoke about. And I liked that. It was refreshing to see a movie actually do that, because usually you see in the movies they're going to try to hide and cover and keep safe the villain, the antagonist, until the point where they have to explode that. You know what I mean? For the antagonist.
In this, you really couldn't do that, considering it was big banks. Yeah. You couldn't hide the fact who the villain was. It was basically, hey, here's these guys who thought that their plan was gonna never fail on them.
Yeah.
And here's these 4 or 5 guys that are saying, hey, no, what we're looking at the numbers and we're saying things are gonna fall. And we're going to bet our own money against your sure thing, and I can guarantee you we'll end up on top for it.
Yeah. Another part that it kind of brings you down and back to earth in this film, because there are parts where you're like, oh, wow, you're starting to get excited for, like, just seeing, like, what these guys that are actually realizing what could happen are doing, and they're not saints in a way, because they see that this is going to happen, but they're still putting money to get money, But even then, the part with Brad Pitt and his character, I forgot what his character's name was, but he was a doctor.
Ben Richard.
Richard.
Ben Richard.
And the 2 guys, Charlie and
Jamie.
Yeah. And he tells them, and they're all happy. That was the biggest deal we've ever done. You're excited for them. But he says, are you dancing? Stop dancing. You don't dance. If the housing bubble busts, thousands or millions of people are going to be homeless or lose their jobs. This, that. And he lays it out flat for them. And he goes,
Yep. And why he got out of banking.
yeah, because he hated seeing this kind of crap happen, which I totally feel like that's like it can do that to people, and that was nice to have that character in there.
Yeah.
But they have so many different characters in this film, playing so many different roles. How much they're true to their natural, what they actually were. We don't know the entire gist of it, but from this movie, I felt like everything worked really well together. I felt like they did a good job. It felt like a documentary, but also like a movie combined into one, you know? And I felt like this is a really good way to do it. And the weird thing about this, Adam McKay, he directed it. He also did the screenplay for it. He's known for comedy, you know? He's not a writer that does this kind of serious type of movie that has this serious content. There was some laughs in here, but underlying everything.
Yeah, but the thing is, the laughs that were in here were not some forced joke or anything like that. It's something that if you were just hanging around these guys, you'd laugh just because they said it. Like if you and I were talking and one of us says something stupid in comparison, the rest of us would laugh just because that's what went on.
Yeah.
You know, so it was a natural comedy, and at the same point, it kept the movie light. It didn't really bring it down to when it did get super serious. In those moments, it kept things flowing and light and up, and yeah, you felt bad that this stuff was happening, and it does bring you down. But at the same time, you can turn around because at the end, it's not as dreary as it seems.
Oh, it's dreary, but thankfully.
Oh no, I mean, I'm talking about as far as how the movie overall plays out. It's not some, you're going to be sitting through 2 hours and I want to punch myself in the gut.
I think it did a really good job with getting my emotions on both sides, the being up as well as like totally feeling the weight of what's going on. You know, when Baum is talking, he's finally opening up to his wife Marissa Tomei's character about his brother and what his mistakes were, that he felt like he messed up and his brother killed himself. It's like, I did this, I did that, I offered him money instead of offering him a shoulder and being his brother and being there for him. It's like that stuff like really hit me, but at the same time, like 10 minutes before that, something made me laugh hilariously, you know. They did a good job of being able to just put that together.
Towards the end of the film, when they shows like there was the one guy from the New Girl, that plays Shmi. When him and his partner, who were talking about how much money they make and the cars they drive and all this stuff, and later on towards the end when you see them at a job fair and they're applying to Best Buy
or Costco or whatever it was,
or Costco, and I'm like, where's that G6 now, motherfucker? Never.
I was thinking watching that, like, right before that, I was like, if those guys just saved their money better, they wouldn't even have to be working at Costco.
And, like, when they showed the strip club, that's where most of their money went.
Yeah, he goes, you guys want me, can we meet some strippers? Yeah, let's meet some strippers.
And that's another thing, that the fact that, I love that, because the one girl that they spoke to in there, and while she's dancing, and he's like, we really don't need you to do this. We're just trying to talk to you. And she's like, well, no. And she tells them and she's got like 3 houses.
5. She had 5
and
houses.
She's got 3, it was 3 or 5 houses.
Condos,
but she has all this money, in a condo. And she's got all this money invested, and she's going to lose everything.
Yeah.
Because she's thinking, I have nothing to worry about.
Yeah,
that's when it really hit them, like, whoa,
Hey, you know what though? She could always go back to strip though.
Go back. She was doing it right then and there. There was nothing for her to go back to.
Give it up. She'll still make good money off of that because she was hot.
Obviously, if she had that many houses in a condo, she was making money.
Because even then, your payments are probably with 5 things, 3 houses, 2 condos, whatever it was. You gotta be talking a few $1,000s at least in payments per month, probably.
Well, depending on what type of mortgage you get, because like when myself and Susan first started looking at houses, we said we're not going to go into a mortgage that's not going to cost more than what we pay for a 2-bedroom apartment. We want to get a mortgage as close to that as possible. but enough for us and the kids. And when we were looking at it, a lot of people don't tend to do that. They don't crunch their numbers enough, and they start going, oh, they see a $500,000 home, and they're saying, oh, well, we only got to pay $3,000 a month in mortgage. Oh, not a problem. Or, you know, yeah, you got to remember that on top of that, you got your taxes, you got, you know,
everything
like
that goes with
certain areas,
that
homeowners associations.
That woman with all those houses, if you put them all together, each one, you're talking $3,000 for the houses, another $1,500 at minimum probably for the 2 condos. I mean,
if she's lucky.
If she's lucky. That was in where was that? Was that in Florida at that time?
I think that went to Miami when they spoke to her. They were in South Florida.
That's because over here in California, a basic rule, and I could be wrong with this, but this is what I've been told, and this is what I looked into. Is about every $100,000 a house, you get $700 per payment. You know, and you go up another $100,000, that's another $700 on your payment. You know, give or take.
Yeah.
Always, but I mean, it really shows you what kind of crap we were in back then. I don't even own a house, but when that happened, when that crashed. I was also leaving one of my jobs at the time. I had 2 jobs. I had a 401k with the first job that I was leaving, and I wanted to keep it there, and I was going to continue paying into it, but just out of my own pocket, not because it wasn't gonna align with my new job. So I was gonna have 2, one at the new job and one from the old job. They, for some reason, they decided to cash out my 401k right around the time that this all happened. So I got my penalty. Plus, I lost like another 25% of all my money based on right then and there, that time period that just took it away. So out of a few $1,000s, I ended up getting like $1,000. Or less than
that's
that.
because the banks were busy looking for money to pay off these guys that, you know, bet against the...
So and it happened right around this time. I was like, are you freaking kidding me? I would have understood if it was just the 40% whatever deduction because you took it out early. But even then, it was more because of this was all happening at the time.
But even if, towards the end, you also see that because of this happening and how the banks had set up the mortgages and things like that, they still get the economic bailout because this is what led to the bailout. And because of this bailout, you know, houses started to sell again. Mind you, from nowhere near the cost that they were originally intended to sell for. And perfect example, like I said, with my house, we paid like not even a third of what it's worth at that time originally. But you know, it did help the market, but at the same time, this is where people need to start paying. If you're a homeowner or a leaser or anything along that line, you need to pay attention to your finances. And if anything changes in your paperwork, that's where you go, wait, hold up. I didn't sign for this.
The adjustable rates. That's what the main thing was. That the adjustable rates, that they were going to go up, and people didn't pay attention because everybody got approved for everything, you know. And adjustable rates went up after a few years, and those adjustable rates were astronomically high.
Yeah,
so that's what people don't realize. That I think there's so many people out there that just go and for some reason I'm getting a mortgage for $200,000 or $150,000, and but what do you do for work? Oh, you work at a local convenience store. Like what the? Come on, dude. You're living a little bit out of your means right now. We gotta kind of.
Yeah, but at the same time, that's not the person who is looking into this house's fault. No. They have fault for not knowing this, but at the same time, those same investors / real estaters / bank people were looking for the same, like the 2 guys, you know, Schmitty. They're looking for the, you know, immigrants or the non-speaking one,
they don't care
or
about
the
first. Once you show them that you're going to get a house, they say yes to anything.
Yeah, you don't have a job? That's okay. I just write it off as, you know. That's why those are the only 2 guys out of the whole film. I said I cannot wait. I cannot wait to see what they do with your characters when you guys get fucked.
Yeah. Let's jump into some of our overalls. Lynn, overall, how'd you feel about the film? What would you recommend with the film, and what do you grade it?
Like I said, it's a highly intelligent, light. It doesn't take itself too serious, even though it is a serious picture. Doesn't take itself as such. So I loved it. I like I said, I was thinking it was going to be something a little too worse for wear, and I was dreading it. But glad that you chose it. Glad that we, after like a couple choices, we had to go through this. But it was definitely worth watching. I'd say I'd have to give it like an A minus, because the only thing that I really did not care for was Brad Pitt's character. Like, I understood the reasonings for him, and I also wanted to see more about Christian Bale's character, because towards the beginning they focused so much on him, and then they just he faded away, and then towards the end when they come back to him, you're like, huh?
Yeah.
Okay.
He had a strong
I wanted
arc in the beginning, and then it faded out.
Yeah, and then they just dropped that, and I wanted to see his wife, because he kept talking about his wife and his kid, and I wanted to see him in that personal level, but you never see him in that. You just see him strictly in numbers and crunching and saying, hey, nobody in the company is trading their money out, nobody's getting their money. And you saw all the shit he went through, but I wanted to see more of him personally, not just, because you did see a little bit of everybody on a personal level minus him.
Yeah.
Until the brief ending when you see his wife one time, or hear his wife.
Yeah, when he's So you A minus for you. I'm right there with you, man.
Yeah.
For me, I really, really enjoyed this film. It's not something you watch with a lot of people. It's not something you recommend to everybody either.
Yeah,
you have to take. I would
the,
recommend it to most people. There are a select few I probably wouldn't recommend it to.
Here's who I would recommend it to. It's that person who's out and about in the real world, is really looking to settle down in something that they want to call their own. They're tired of renting. Look at this, and then look at, because I think this gives anybody that type of information you want before you go to buy a house. It'll make you really think about checking your own numbers before you go to some shady bank or realtor. So that way, if you know what you have in your own, what you're capable of doing, you're not going to get taken by these, because banks are still going to try to get money no matter what. And I won't be surprised if they're still doing the same thing. So that's who I would recommend to, on top of just anybody who likes a very smart picture that's not trying to force feed you.
The first part, yes. The people that I would aim this more towards are people that are willing to go into movies with an open mind and willing to take in information. If you have a friend who's a type of person that just only wants to see popcorn flicks, they're probably not the ones. This movie would be good for them, but it's probably not. They probably wouldn't watch it on their own. So
put it this way, I don't think this would be a good movie for Ed. I think most of it would fly over his head. Brendan, I'm hoping you get a chance to sit with this, because I think the reason why I think you would benefit from this, because you're in that mindset that I'm talking about. You're very, self-oriented, and you try to push yourself to get yourself in a better situation.
Well,
you're looking for a more.
Not only that, I 2009 was when I broke my back. So 2010, I actually worked for a company. I won't say the name. I don't want to. Anyways, so basically what I did is I worked for technically a bunch of different banks, and I went to foreclosed houses, and and I would take pictures for the banks, and I made really good money because there were so many friggin' people that lost their homes, or their homes were being foreclosed upon, or they had to get second and third mortgages because they couldn't afford it. So I saw the direct result of basically what you guys were talking about. I saw what, the aftermath of what people had to deal with. So yeah, it's definitely a film I want to watch.
Yeah.
Yeah. And to be honest, when we started searching for the houses was shortly after about half when we found out we were pregnant with Lenore, our youngest. And we knew that a 2-bedroom apartment was just not going to do it for us. And we figured we didn't want to rent anymore. But if we could find something that's close to what we were paying in rent at that point, and we just need something that's going to be just enough for us, but that's not going to break our backs. And we actually saw a couple of houses that were foreclosed on top of people who were still people who the owners were selling the house, but they were still living in there. So we actually saw, like, the one guy, there's a guy and his family that are living in there. He's paying his rent, and his landlord was like, no, you never see his landlord. And he's like, man, it's not my fault. I paid my rent. And later on, you see the guy living out of his truck with the rest of his family out of the back. And, you feel bad for him. And there was still a lot of that when we were searching for homes. And I felt bad being in there. Here I am looking at this house that I want to buy for myself, and there's people living in it. And, I don't have to tell them, but yeah, if I want this house, you guys need to get the fuck out.
Yeah.
So I really told Susan, I was like, I really don't want to put a bid on a house that has actually tenants. So
Yeah. The movie was good.
I
The
don't
movie
care.
was good overall. It did a good job of putting that in there for us to all see, for us to understand, for us to learn. Movies are movies, though, too. You take it all with a grain of salt. Do your own research, legitimate research on this. Like I said, I'm right there with you with my grade. I give it an A-. I'll definitely watch it again. But
yeah.
Again, movies are movies. Take this as like a warning, and definitely as something for people to get interested in learning more so of what they need to look at before they just go sign on the dotted line.
I would say that don't really take it with a grain of salt. It's like, take it as a brief outline. If you're ever looking to buy a house, just use this as a short outline on what to look for, what to avoid, and things along that line, and then everything else do the research on as far as what type of house you're looking for, what have you. Everything else you could do, but take the things that you have to pay closer attention to as far as what the banks throw at you, because they do throw out a lot of numbers, a lot of rates, a lot of different things, and you're like, what, and they just want you to sign, so that, just keep that in mind, and just sit back, enjoy this movie, and see it for what it is. Don't like pigeonhole yourself.
And for people that maybe might not be interested in it, this movie has credibility in the fact that it was nominated for awards. It won the Academy Award for Best Writing Adapted Screenplay. It was nominated for Best Motion Picture of the Year, Best Performance by an Actor in Supporting Role, Best Director and Editing. So this movie, it's rated not only by fans and by critics as a good film. It's something that I hope people go into with an open mind and give it the time that it deserves.
Yeah, this
is definitely one that opened my eyes.
Yeah. So with that all being said, Lynn, where can we find you at these days?
Editing everything for the YouTube page and the podcast, and finding me is a difficult. I'm here at home. I'll go to work.
Don't worry.
Too busy
Don't
editing.
worry.
Sleep.
I'll edit my movie of the week coming up, so you won't have to worry about that. Lynn, you can find Lynn on Twitch, Twitter.
Well, no, you can find me on Twitter under the AKA Geeks one, as well as the Ash Darkthorn. I'd like to get the other guys under the AKA Geeks, but I got to figure that one out. Yeah, on Facebook as well, on Xbox One as Ash Darkthorn, and on PSN Ash_Darkthorn. That's pretty much it as far as where you can find me.
And you can find us with our weekly podcast on iTunes, Google Play, now on iHeartRadio, which apparently by their advertisements, it uses less data. I don't know about that. Twitch, Twitter, Facebook, and YouTube, which you guys are at right now. So click all those like, share, subscribe buttons. Tell all your friends about us. It's the hot thing to do right now. You guys, you don't even know. And you catch me on...
It's so hot, these guys don't even share the information.
Do. You catch me on Twitter, Calumet Switch, Xbox One, PlayStation 4. Join us for more movies of the week. Send us your suggestions for movies of the week. They could be stupid. They could be movies that never make any sense. They could be total, like, mind-numbing stuff.
Fucks.
Yeah, you could say it.
Fucks.
Whatever. We definitely are interested in hearing about these movies and giving them a chance. Brendan, you let us know where to find you at too, buddy? I almost forgot you were there, man.
You can find me in my
Is he
bed
alive?
right now. You can, at Twitter, OverseerVol69. I will be speaking with the guys and figuring out how to get Twitch streaming onto the page because I plan to. This can be a side thing if you want. With No Man's Sky, I want to do like a running like documentary of like pretending I'm actually a space guy and do like commentary and stuff. So I'm
That'd be funny.
gonna pick
That'd
it up
great.
today, and we'll figure out how to do that. So you can find me soon on Twitch, aka Geeks No Man's Sky.
Nice.
Yes.
And
very nice.
awesome.
Very nice.
So again, thank you for joining us today, guys. We appreciate you. We love you. And for this episode of Group Discussion Movie of the Week, we'll see you later. Peace.
aka Geeks.